Hello everyone, my name's Dave Dustin. I'll be the host of your show this evening. On this episode of the History of Comics, you see right here, I'm going to be taking a look at Reform Schoolgirl, notorious 1951 Avon comic Reform Schoolgirl. This is just a printout. I don't have the actual book here. I have the next best thing though. This here would be the Australian 1952 edition of Reform Schoolgirl. As far as I know, it's the only copy known to exist in the universe. I haven't seen another copy. There's nothing online talking about it. There's no photos anywhere. The only thing you ever find on it is if you see an old post I made a few years ago when I found it on social media. You can see Reform Schoolgirl right there. It's got all the stories from Reform Schoolgirl in it, except it doesn't have the text story cellmate, but it's got all the other stories in black and white there. So that's really awesome. So yeah, we're going to talk about Reform Schoolgirl, but before that, this is another mail call unboxing video. This just arrived. I have not got into this at all yet. Haven't opened it up. But it is going to have more of the same Avon production materials. That's right. This is part 3 of the 3 videos. You need to watch the other videos first before this really, like the horror sci-fi lot, and then I got the lot with the jungle and the crime. And then we got some more crime and some other stuff here. So I'm going to open this up. Got a lot of stuff to go through. It's going to be really awesome. Got some wicked awesome stuff that just showed up. Just fantastic. Can't wait to see this. And you have to make sure to stay. I'm going to save the second best thing. I'm going to save right till the end too. So I'll have something really cool at the end of this video because it's going to be probably a little while I'll be going through this. It's going to be a longer video again, just like all my others. Let me open this up first before anything else. Okay. All right. Let's open this up. Got it right here. It's inside the package. And I know exactly what I want to look at first here. Right for it. There we go. Reform Schoolgirl, original 1951 printer's proof. Oh, right there's 100 on the back. So that is the printer's proof from the original 1951 Avon's comic, Reform Schoolgirl. You see the lettering right there. That is awesome. That's so cool to have that. Fantastic discovery right there. And to go along with that, printer's proof of the rest of the text right below it. You see it says, they succumbed to temptation. This is the story of youth gone wrong, and of the penalty hundreds of pretty girls have to pay when they allow themselves to fall victim to unscrupulous men, their own wayward emotions, and the other hidden pitfalls of a sensation-crazed society. That's fantastic right there. So that's the original printer's proof, 1951, from the text box at the bottom there, shrunken down. That is so awesome. Then this is also from us. There's a story inside. We have Fast Company. That's a story inside Reform Schoolgirl. And this one here, right? Also, I tried to bury my past. It's also reverse negative of a story inside Reform School. Okay, so we have more printer's proofs. And this is for, of course, the most notorious book ever, Reform Schoolgirl. So anyone who doesn't know Reform Schoolgirl, so it started off as House of Fury. Here's House of Fury. It was originally printed 1941 by Doubleday. So this one is actually, this is a Canadian printed edition 1950 Avon comic. It's a reprint from later. But this is the cover and the story, originally from 1941. It was called House of Fury, and it's about a reform school by Felice Swados. Now, later on, it was reprinted by Avon Publishing, and in 1948, Diversity published this. This is from Diversity Publishing House, but it's part of Avon. They put House of Fury in small lettering up there in brackets, the original title, and they retitled it Reform Schoolgirl. So it's not House of Fury anymore. Felice Swados, still the same writer, but now they have this picture, this salacious picture. That is a Canadian bad girl on the cover there, smoke dangling from her mouth, doing up her garters. Her name is Marty Collins. She was a figure skater up here in Canada and also a model, and she posed for this picture, and they put it on this pulp that they came out with that reprinted House of Fury, but they retitled it Reform Schoolgirl. And then after that, they reused that same cover for a comic book. So then in 1951, they came out with Reform Schoolgirl. And this was vilified. It was in Seduction of the Innocent. It was featured. It made headlines. Another big thing with it is there was, in the original one, there was a couple pages that talked about the father being, it insinuated he was the girl's father had a child with a girl, and she was pregnant from the father, had like an incest thing. So in real life, the father of Marty Collins apparently sued Avon Comics, and they excised those 2 pages from their books, but there are still some that were originally published and distributed that had a couple pages in it before they got sued. So there's a big scandal going on with that also, by the way. But then they came out Reform Schoolgirl, 1951. So that is what's well known. This is 1952, the Australian edition. So that's really, really awesome. I love that cover too. Stanley Pitt. Then later, here's 1959, Berkeley reprinted House of Fury, titled again, instead of Reform Schoolgirl. Salacious picture on, again, behind the cell bars. The comic was reprinted again in 1989 by Eclipse, Teenage Dope Slaves and Reform Schoolgirls. They reprinted the comic story. So that's a bit of a history behind the comic, and that is fantastic. I can't believe I have that. I love having this original stuff from the printers, from probably from Eastern Publishing Company that was bought out by IW Super. So of course, we're talking about IW Super. That's where these printers proofs and original Avon artwork, original hand-drawn lettering, original art from the 51, 52, 53. There's printers proofs, reverse negatives. There's edited cover art. There's revised cover art. There's unpublished cover art. Fantastic treasure trove that I've got here. This being the third package. So that's where this came from. Avon Comics. IW Super. So I'll tell everyone a bit about IW Super. You have to watch the last videos. I go over all this. Grand Comic Database, IW Publications 1958 to 1964 was part of IW Enterprises and named for the company's owner Israel Waldman. Reportedly, Waldman came into possession of a printing company, and among the assets were the production materials for several hundred comic books previously published by various publishers, as well as a limited amount of previously unpublished material. Waldman equated possession of production materials as the right to reprint, and IW became notable for publishing unauthorized reprints of other companies' comics, often with new covers, as Waldman's windfall did not often include the production materials for covers. The later half of the company's existence, it published comics under the Super Comics name. Usually these companies were out of business, but not always. Well, that's because they came out, it was 1958 that Israel Waldman started reprinting comics. So he bought out a printer's workshop, and he had all the materials he needed for publishing all these comics. So he reprinted 332 comics. It was 1958, he did like 240 of them, and then there was a 5-year break, and then like 63 did another like 80 or something, and then in early 64 another dozen, and then they shut down. But he got all this original Avon material and all my other videos, all the other Avon material. That's what he had purchased from these print shops, and he also had printing plates and matrices and silver prints and everything he needed to reprint these comics. And that's what this is. This was came from Bar, Massachusetts. Just now was in someone's collection for like a dozen years, and he got it from a dealer that had found it in a storage locker find in New Jersey. So that was over a dozen years ago. Who knows whenever that happened, when he found that, and how long it was in that storage locker for. A lot of the stuff people probably haven't seen since 1958, since they were looking at it there, and the IW Super Comics were reprinting all this stuff. Then in Wikipedia, it goes on, the company was known for its low-budget products. Most of IW's comics were sold in grocery and discount stores, often in 3 comics for a quarter plastic bags. So we have bag comics like that here too, where you get like 3 for $1 when I was growing up or whatnot. But it was also, IW Super Comics were not code approved. They did not have the the seal of approval from the Comics Code Authority, which just came out in 1955, right? So this is just a few years after it came out. If you didn't have that code, distributors would not distribute your comics. Like EC Comics tried for a little while not having the code approval, and they had bundles of comics returned that were not even opened because the distributors refused to handle them. So distributors wouldn't have handled IW Super Comics because they didn't have the code approval. So they were sold in multi-packs apparently in grocery stores. So that's kind of interesting. Walden was able to sell them cheaply because in many cases he was able to supply the letterpress plates they were printed from and thus avoid paying for new ones. How a man who gives little evidence of being interested in comics before emerging as an extremely low-end publisher came to have such production materials is simply that he bought out defunct publishers' storage facilities, purchasing physical materials only and ignoring intellectual property rights. In many cases, he dealt with Eastern Color Printing, which did most of America's comics, for materials their publishers had left behind when they went out of business. So it goes on to tell you more. The numbering is misleading. It often doesn't start at 1, it skips numbers. A lot of the issues like had issue number 9 or number 12, and it would be the only issue in the series. There's a lot of information there. There's a lot of information online about all this other stuff. We'll get back to looking at this mail call, this package that arrived. So that was a history lesson for today. Carrying on. Okay. So we have here Prison Break number 5. There's a printer's proof of Prison Break number 5. You see at the top, the Escape King, that's actually stapled on. The lettering is another proof that got stapled onto this proof. That's neat. You can see here's the original, October 1952, Prison Break number 5. Then we got Prison Break number 4, reverse negative printer's proof. There's how it looked. Prison Break number 4, July 1952. Oh, I like this one. This is a neat one. Save that one. I'll save that one. Alright, so we have here the Case of the Dark Hero. Something stuck to the bottom. It got a bit wet. Something stuck here. Something Adventures 100 pages. So anyway, that's this cover. So this is an Avon novel, or sorry, paperback, 1947 paperback, The Case of the Dark Hero. So this cover from this 1947 paperback was reused for The Saint number 12 in March 1952. They just changed the text and reused the cover. See here, we have the cover with no text for Prison Riot, number 1, 1952. I wonder if there's any changes. Some of these I've noticed have revisions. This looks the same, except for it looks like they removed the signature. It had Everett Raymond Kinsler's signature underneath the guard's face. Prison Riot. Oh, and here's another Prison Riot. So this one actually has a text right there. It's got the title, Prison Riot, at the top. So here's some other Prison Break. So this is Prison Break number 1. So that's Wally Wood art. That's really cool. September 1951. There was nothing from that. There is, however, Prison Break number 2. So online, they had on Grand Comic Database, they had it attributed to Wally Wood, but then they changed it to saying Sid Check. But there was a book that came out in 2013 called Wally Wood, and it was all his artwork, and it featured this cover, like cover number 1 for number 1 and number 2. Like, you'd think that they would have checked that. So possibly Wally Wood. Prison Break cover, printer's proof. Prison Break number 2. And then there was also a Prison Break number 3. There was nothing from number 3. All right. Oh, so here's one I already had before. Prison Break number 5. So here is another printer's proof for Prison Break number 5. And what's neat that I saw online is they actually changed. So this one, you see further down. So in this printer's proof, you see that they put the Escape King at the top. So that brought the artwork down lower than it is on this printer's proof. So you can see the guardhouse here, it's like right in the exclamation mark, where here it's below the box. And then at the bottom of the artwork, what's cut off is you can see the wrist of the officer with the rifle, and the signature is cut off at the bottom there, Everett Raymond Kinsler, and the railing. So they cut off some of the artwork by changing it. So that's the unedited right there, so you can see the lower bit that wasn't in the published artwork. That's kind of cool, being able to see stuff that got changed. We got some text pieces here. So, from Murderous Gangsters number 3, March 1952. We have printer's proof for the text. Nick Merrick, Shakedown Racketeer, Killer Bait. You can see it on the cover. Here we go, to go with the Boy Detective stuff I got last time. Here is Boy Detective number 1, printer's proof, reverse negative. Boy Detective number 1 was May 1951. So I just got a lot that had a whole bunch of Boy Detective stuff in it, and that'll go along with that. You got the text. Realistic. So this is from Realistic Romances. This is just a printer's proof. You can see from the gloss shininess, although it looks like it might have been glued down to something before. It looks like traces of glue on the back. So this was mocked up on a proof. Realistic Romances. Then we got Top Adventure Comics. So here's the printer's proof. Reverse negative, see on the back, it's got a number 112 in blue pencil. Top Adventure. So here is Top Adventure Comics number 1, 1958 IW Super. So this is not Avon original stuff. This is IW Super 1958. They came out with this title and they only used it on the one comic ever. That's the only one that's ever had this title in this type. If they had a number 2, they changed the title, the lettering for number 2. That is a reprint of High Adventure 1957 by Decker. That's what this reprints. Top Adventure Comics. We have Thrill Hungry. That's a story in Realistic Romances number 6, June 1952. We have, oh, I like this one. This is a nice one. This is Murderous Gangsters number 1, printer's proof, reverse negative with no text. That was from July 1951. Got some writing in pencil on the back. You can see that it looks like they brought the cover down so it cuts off the signature at the bottom, looks like. A little cut off. So, Murderous Gangsters number 1. We have some more text. The Convict Killer and Jailbreaking Tigress. That is from the stories Handsome Hands Rudolph, the Convict Killer, and Betty Jane Watson, the Jailbreaking Tigress. And I had in my horror lot this one, The Maniac Gunman. That actually goes to this same comic as well. It's another story in Prison Break, number 4, July 1952. This is really cool. So I'm not sure what to make of this. This is definitely 100%. This is original hand-drawn art. See how is it? You can see it's cut off on a diagonal. All the printer's proofs are pretty much all just cut straight off, and it doesn't have that shine to it. You can see that this is inked. You can see some pencil still underneath. Justice. Now this is strange because I can't find this on the cover of a comic anywhere. Not written in this style. What I did find, and I'll show you, I compared them, is there was this giant 100-page book, 25 cents, Jesse James Brings Six-Gun Justice to the West. So this is by Avon, 1952. So this is probably like 3 remainder comics that were bound together. And they tried to resell comics that went unsold and had the covers stripped off. That's what they did. That's when they came out these giant books that are 25 cents, the remainder comics inside. So you see the word justice at the bottom here. It's the most similar text that I could find to this original hand-drawn piece. Here's a comparison, one over the other. You can tell like the U is completely different, looking like a V in what they published. Everything's like italicized, so they didn't, when we go with italics, they change it back to being straight. But like if you look at the edges of the letters, it has the same style on the edges of all the letters. So I think that was like the original hand-drawn art for what they were going to put on the cover of this. But then they decided that they didn't like the way it looked, so they changed it to what was published here. And that just went as unused original artwork for the lettering there, as far as I know. And now we get to, oh, this is really cool. Oh, did I look at this already? I must have looked at this already. This is me too. Prison Break number 4, July 1952. I think I had this out already. I can't remember anymore. That's a really neat cover, so it's got no text on it. Reverse negative. Okay. Oh, that's neat. Oh, what's this? Oh, I didn't even know I had this. So this is the word astounding. Little letters that were all cut apart for some reason. I don't know. I have no idea what this is. I have to look this up. I don't know what this could be. I have no idea. Astounding. Off a cover of an Avon comic, apparently. But I didn't even notice it was coming. So now, this is the final couple pieces. Nothing's going to top it for Schoolgirl, but still. This is really, really awesome. So look at this. There is one way and one flip the other way. One of them's got a really more glossy cardstock than the other, but still, it's the same thing. You can see there's pencil marks on the back. It looks familiar, right? I thought it looked familiar too. It does look familiar, but there's some stuff that's different about this. So it looks a lot like a cover, or that I've seen somewhere. So I looked this up, and I found actually multiple covers that look just like this, but still different. So I'll show you where it originally came from. Parole Breakers number 3. So if you look at this here, so they did change this. This is from July 1952. You see, it looks similar. The gun is in different position. There's a third person here. The girl's different, but similar. So Parole Breakers number 3, and this cover was redone by I.W. Super 1958, and they retitled it "Danger is Our Business number 9." You can see it's completely different. They put the face up there is different. The guy's got a different gun in his hand, but it's still basically the same guy in the same position at a window. And it's basically the same girl in the same position at the window. So they swiped it for this cover. And this is 1958. But this is from 1952. And you can see here. So this was here. So I took those reverse negatives and I flipped them. I had them flipped in Photoshop so you could see better the positive version of it. So, it looks similar. So that original Parole Breakers, so they basically reused this, Avon did. Same girl, guy is now in a bit of revision, but it's the same basic cover and same girl. Sensational Police Cases number 3 from May 1954. That's when they came out with this. So it's kind of based off of this 52. But this is a 1954 Sensational Police Comics number 3. Now, if you look at the positive again, see that? Looks very similar. That is the exact same guy. The third guy that's in the window there isn't there anymore, but those are the exact cops shooting at them inside the window frame. Totally different girl. Completely different girl. And she's got 2 semi-automatic handguns in her hands, one smoking. She's got a smoking handgun, so she was just shooting at the cops herself. She could be like the ringleader, or it could just be a guy and a girl. And see that third person, I don't even know if he belongs there. So look at this. So I.W. Super also reused this cover. So they had Sensational Police Cases. I.W. Super flipped it and used it on this. They call it Dynamic Comics number 1, 1958 I.W. Super. It's the same cover but flipped. Right? Like exact same image but flipped. And you can see beside the girl with Dynamic Comics. So back to Sensational Police Cases. So I got the other one. Oh, look at this one. There we go. So if you look, there are some changes. So the girl, completely different. They went back to this girl they've already used a couple times before, where this one's totally different girl they used. The smoking handguns. The guy machine gun shooting out the windows, got a smoke gun. You can see they cut off the windows that are at the top of this picture, and they put like a nightshade like coming down. They even changed the window in the background. And now they're shooting right at the cop. You can see him shooting around the cop, like over his head. There's bullet holes, and you can see there's bullet holes in the shade that's pulled down. The difference is in this one, you can see that the cops have shot the window frame right here. You can see there's shots hitting the window that's not in the published version. See the windows are removed from the top here. These windows are changed at the bottom. It's got like a different picture hanging on the wall, different girl. It's the exact same guy with the Tommy gun, but then there's this third guy. I don't even know that guy's supposed to be there. It looks really cramped in there. It looks like it's a paste over. It looks like that they were trying to cover up. Like they had this cop being shot out, and they thought, no, we can't show that. They put a paste over of another guy, the back of the coat and the back of the hat to cover it up. But then when they published it, they removed the paste over of the guy in the hat, in the coat, but then they put a paste over the girl, and they completely changed the girl back to this one that they had already published previously. They did not want to use this girl for some reason. I don't know why. That's neat. So, again, you can look at it right here. Reverse negatives. So that's really cool. So, completely edited revised when they published this cover. That's neat. So that's all I got for this one. Another fantastic haul. I can't even tell you how I am to have this stuff, this Reform Schoolgirl stuff. Like this is fantastic. You know, have this and the original, the lettering, printer's proof. Oh man, that's wicked awesome. That's so cool. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Till next time. Cheers.